Hawk Ostby and Mark Fergus from Penguin and Parker are no longer executive producers, writers, or going to be directing any episodes of the God of War series. There's a new showrunner. But is this not just a good thing for the God of War show? Is it also a good thing for a little show we like to call Stargate? Welcome to SciTrek Daily, your daily dose of TV, movie, news and rumours. The new God of War series was actually conceived 2.5 years ago. Rafe Judkins was going to be showrunner and Mark Fergus and Hawk Ostby executive producers. Also, they were in charge of writing many of the scripts, and actually Mark Fergus was going to direct a lot of the episodes. But about 2 months ago, Rafe Judkins left as showrunner, and 2 weeks ago it was announced that Ronald D Moore was going to be taking over. Now, I, ever since, have been desperately trying to find out why. What the bloody hell is going on? And I've been able to glean some insights. Basically, first of all, I was just asking, so Mark Fergus and Hawk Ostby fired? Were they, kicked off the project? And the answer I keep getting is no. Everyone was quite happy with their work. Their scripts pretty much are going to be used for the series. They've completed several. They've all been greenlit, and Ronald D Moore is sort of working on them, developing them at the moment. He might add some finishing touches, but basically the plot of the series has been agreed for quite some time, and everyone was happy. So, okay, is it a new creative direction? Have they decided, it's 2.5 years it's been stuck in development? Do they just need fresh blood or something? And they said, well, that's part of it. Any show that's stuck in development for 2.5 years, there's obviously a problem. But it's generally accepted that a big part of that was because of the strikes. They basically lost a year because of that. So again, not Hawk Ostby or Mark Fergus' fault. So I continue to ask around, what was the problem then? They said, right, apparently there was some problems with Rafe Judkins, particularly when Amazon basically came back to them in the last 12 months or so and said, look, we need to cut the cost of the show by about 30%. And Rafe didn't like that. I wish I had a name like Rafe. My first name's Jamie. That sucks. A name like Rafe. It's more windswept and interesting, isn't it? But anyway, but that wasn't a major problem. But it did cause some tension. Now, Mark Fergus has had this problem before, because if you are a regular SciTrekker, you'll know that he was heavily involved in Stargate development work a couple of years ago for Amazon when they were considering the movie. He didn't do it never went into pre-production, but he did a lot of sort of like the pre-production work, the Bible and things like this that they then used for the pitch meetings that they requested. It was basically a document that told all the different companies that were going to be pitching what canon was, what sort of ideas they had for what Amazon wanted from the project, etc., etc. And apparently he may have actually written a script, but that has never really been confirmed. He was heavily involved though, and it was confirmed by another insider like Jenny Stiven on Dial the Gate that actually Mark Fergus was approached at the end of The Expanse by Amazon, and they sort of said, look, what do you want to do next? And he went, I'd love to do Stargate, please. So we know he was involved. Sony are doing the God of War TV series in co-production with Amazon. So I asked the question, are Sony really doing Stargate, which we've heard the rumour a few times now that they are, and if so, could that have something to do with this decision? Now, the answer is a little bit complicated, because I've basically been told, look, part of the decision to move Mark Fergus and Hawk Ostby on in particular was that they were doing several other projects, and the problem again, which is we've seen a lot, is that their sort of calendar has been screwed up by the strikes. They basically lost a year, and there's other projects that they were sort of contracted to get involved in 2024, 2025, but they were still stuck doing God of War, and they couldn't move on to the stuff they wanted to do. Mark Fergus in particular is directing a couple of projects, something he's desperately, really keen to do. So apparently when the sort of option of should we move on came up, their calendars were a big part of that. So it's not fair just to say, well, look, maybe Sony offered them Stargate and they've just jumped. There are other projects involved. But I did ask the question, could that be what's going on? The really important piece of information here is, though, that it does seem that Mark Fergus and Hawk Oaksby were not fired. They were not sacked from the project. They moved on. It was a mutual decision. And Sony apparently do want to keep that relationship going. So we are getting into a little bit of speculation here, but I asked the question of a couple of company insiders that work. One guy works at quite a big talent agency in America. The other guy works, he's basically an office manager, but for one of the big studios. And they sort of said, look, this is the sort of thing that, if true, if Sony are doing Stargate, we know Mark Fergus was already involved a lot in Stargate. He only moved on basically because Amazon couldn't decide what to do with the project more than 2 years ago. So he said, look, I'm going to move on to other things. And he had the God of War project, etc., etc. It would make sense now if Sony are interested in Stargate and they're going to be taken over, that they would bring Mark Fergus back in. It just works out nicely for everybody. It would be the really perfect answer to the problem. It allows them to bring fresh blood into God of War and to get on with that project, which is gone into pre-production now, it's going into filming, I'm hearing, very early next year. It allows Mark Fergus, etc., to step away for a minute and finish the other projects he's doing, including the directing things that he's doing, which, again, are very important to him. There's a project he wrote and he directed that he's currently in production with. It allows Ronald D Moore to come in, who is very well respected, and it allows him to sort of inject some fresh blood into the God of War project as well. And most importantly, if Sony really is about to take on Stargate, and we're hearing lots of rumours that they might be, it allows the person that did all the development work 2 years ago, the person that was very, very keen to do Stargate, to step in and get that ball rolling. It really does mean Sony can hit the ground running with the new Stargate series, if that's what they end up doing, because you've got the people that did all the development work on board from day one. Now, let's be very clear that this is a rumour, and the people I've spoken to don't know and haven't been able to tell me whether this suggestion is true or not. But what they have been able to say is it does make sense, and this is the sort of thing that happens within the business. People, when they leave a big show like this, like God of War, the showrunner, etc., they don't just leave for no reason. And if they were sacked or whatever, we'd know. The fact that it seems that they weren't is maybe an indicator that there's something more going on. Again, everybody's telling me that Mark Fergus and Hawk Oaksby have a brilliant relationship with Amazon, have a brilliant relationship with Sony, and this was a mutual respect decision that was made. So just maybe that means the person that we've always said on SciTrek, that if we weren't going to get Brad Wright to executive produce Wright and do all the development work for the series, if it wasn't Brad Wright, Mark Fergus was not a bad second place. So maybe after all of this merry-go-round, we're going to end up back where we started 3 years ago, with Mark Fergus taking the lead of a new Stargate show, but with Sony and Amazon, not just Amazon. Guys, get into the comments, tell me what you think. Is this an interesting possibility? Would you be interested? Is it sort of poetic how it's done one big circle? Or is this just speculation, which it is, let's be honest? And, maybe we're adding a bit of 2 + 2 = 9. Very possible. It's a little bit windy on the beach here today. Hope you can hear me okay. If you are new to the channel, don't forget to like, subscribe, with that bell notification. We'll help us out so you never miss any of our new videos. And you can go to patreon.com/SciTrek, where most of our new videos do premiere first. And you get to see them without the adverts. You lucky bunnies. As always, please stay safe. I'll see you next time.